Mary Ann Burrows, DTM, will be presenting her speech from the advanced manual, Humorously Speaking. It's project number 3, Make Them Laugh. The purpose of the speech is to present a speech that opens and closes with humorous stories. It includes jokes in the body of the speech to illustrate points or maintain the audience's interest. Deliver the jokes and stories smoothly and effectively. The title of her speech is Communication, and her speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. Please help me welcome Mary Ann Burrows, DTM.
A young fellow was trying to make some money, so he was going door to door in his neighborhood to see if he could do some odd jobs. He knocks on one door, and the lady of the house comes to the front of the house. And he explains to her what he was interested in, and she thinks for a few minutes and said, well, you know, the porch in the back could be painted. My husband's had that on the list for a long time and hasn't gotten around to it. So they agree on the price, and she explains to him where the paintbrushes and the paint are. And he goes in the back. And a few hours later, he comes back, knocks on the door, and the lady says, oh, you're done already. That's fantastic. Thank you. My husband is going to be so excited. And she pays him the money. And then as he turns around to leave, he turns back and says, oh, by the way, ma'am, that's not a porch. It's a Lamborghini. Communication. Why is it such a challenge? Why is it you think you say something and the other person understands what you're saying? But oftentimes it goes like this. The definition of communication is a relaying of information or thoughts, either by verbally, by gestures, or by writing. How many times have you asked somebody in your household to go get something in the other room, and you say it's in the dresser, on the third drawer down, right in the middle of the drawer? They leave, come back maybe 15, 20 minutes later, scratching their head with this perplexed look on their face, and they go, I couldn't find that pink top you were looking for. So you walk in the room with them, point to the dresser, count down 3 drawers, pull it out, and there is the pink top you were asking for. Why is it so hard? Well, the number one most important reason is because in order for information to be relayed, there has to be someone on the other end that listens to the information. And if that doesn't happen, it's not very likely that communication is going to occur. But even beyond that, if somebody really wanted to listen, we communicate, we understand, we take in information and assimilate information very differently. 2 blondes drive to Disneyland. They pull in the driveway. They see a sign that says, Disneyland left. So they looked at each other in disappointment, turned around, and drove back home. Now, we all laugh at blonde jokes or Polish jokes or whatever other kind of jokes out there. But the facts are, we take in information differently. So we have to learn to figure out how to communicate better. John Gray wrote the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, because he realized that men and women communicate and take in information differently. Now, and then we can add to that teenagers or children. I think he should have written a sequel to what kids planet, what planet the kids are from, because they obviously aren't on the same place we are. But we have to understand that most kids today are practically born with some kind of a device in their hand. And when I was a little girl, we didn't even have TV. So how could we possibly be communicating from the same level? And on a more global level, if you add different languages, cultural backgrounds, it's amazing we can communicate at all. Now, I mentioned earlier that we communicate by words or gestures or writing. Now, there are some very specific gestures I'm sure you'll be familiar with. If you've ever been a parent or had a parent, you know the parental look. When you know you're in a lot of trouble and you better toe the line. Or there's the teenager stance. Where you know the door is closed, communication has been completed. And there's also hand gestures. where with a flick of a wrist, a lot of information can be communicated. I'm not going to go into details about that. Or on a positive note, you can have two young lovers who are staring into each other's eyes, where no words are necessary, for at least a month or so. And there can just be one-word communication like, whatever, or really? Actually, I'm starting to think maybe we would do better if we communicated verbally less and more with gestures. That seems to make a better point. So how can we begin to close this gap that we have between what we think we're trying to say and what somebody else is hearing us say? I have a friend named Bernie who shared a story with me. He said that he's decided to commit his relationship with his wife and make that the number one most important thing in his life. Pretty admirable for a guy especially, isn't it? I'd say. So he made this formula, which I decided to call the stop, look, and listen formula. Now, if you remember when you were a kid and you learned how to cross the street, you had to learn to stop, look, and listen. Well, he applied a very similar formula. And that is, anytime his wife says anything in the house, whatever he's doing, he stops. He goes over to his wife, and he looks into her eyes, and he listens intently to what she has to say. Can you imagine how improved our relationships would be if we just did that simple formula? But I know everybody's busy, we're active, we've always got something to keep us moving, that we don't often stop and do that. Now, another thing that can be very important is to write things down. Do you think if that person that was sent to the other room to find that pink top had written down what I had said, that there would be a better likelihood that they would have returned with that pink top? I think they would. And then we have to add a little bit of humor. Because even if we practice doing communication better, it's highly unlikely it won't always work out exactly how we thought it would. A young girl woke up the morning of her birthday and said to her husband, "Honey, I had this dream last night that I got this beautiful diamond ring for my birthday." Her husband looked at her and said, "Well, maybe before the end of the day, you'll find out what that means." So she was on cloud nine all day long. Finally, he came home from work, handed her this beautifully wrapped package. She ripped it open in excitement, and inside was a book that said, "Dream Interpretation." Not exactly what she was looking for, but it was actually what she asked for, because she asked, "What do you think this means?" So fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, if you want to improve on your connection and communication with those you love and care about, remember, stop, look, listen, write, and keep smiling.